Hi, this is Misha, and I thought I would talk a bit about the so-called JJverse and the Enterprise from it. The JJverse being the 2009 Star Trek reboot movie, the 2013 sequel Into Darkness, and the 2016 Beyond. Now, these Eaglemoss ships were really my first experience with the Enterprise itself. First time I really had an idea what it looked like. And I'm going to kind of talk you through what I thought when I first felt these. I definitely read stuff online about people's feelings. I didn't really read many people that just love this version, but some hated it, some were just kind of, it was fine, you know. So I was feeling the saucer. Just normal. Pretty standard Star Trek. Feeling the deflector. Nice kind of update to the original kind of satellite dish. I'm glad they, kept a little bit of it. That was all fine. I wasn't really getting the big deal. Engineering hull is more or less standard. Then I felt the engines. The nacelles. What the fuck? These things look engorged. Whew, oh boy. In the back here, not so bad, but they're just fat. They're just, engorged. Looks like a piece of a male anatomy. Maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know. It is weird. And then the struts, the pylons, are almost right, but they're too fat too. Like if they didn't flare out, trying to show you, if they didn't flare out towards the rear, if it was just straight or even just swept back or even forward, but the way they just poof out and then they intersect the shuttle bay. Good grief. It's just wrong. I mean, I guess I don't, strictly speaking, hate it, because 2/3 of the ship are fine, but something about those engines is just weird. Plus, they did them in blue, the Bussard collectors. They were going to do red. Why they didn't stick with it, I don't know, but that's a thing. Star Trek has never been terribly consistent with coloration, especially the original series, so this was in 2009, where it got the crap beat out of it. Then it appeared again in Into Darkness, where it again got the crap beat out of it. And then it was retrofitted or refitted into this version for Star Trek Beyond, where it just got outright destroyed in the first not even half of the movie. So this is the refit JJprise. The saucer hasn't really changed much, but they have kind of monkeyed with the neck and how the engineering hull connects to the saucer, pushing it around a bit. They've also redone the engines, the nacelles. So they made them smaller. That's good, but they still are pretty bulbous in the front. They've definitely improved the pylons, the struts. And I have no doubt this was inspired by the 1979 refit, because it has that swept back. That's great. But what they did here that I don't really care for, they're so darn close together. It's not awful, but it just seems odd to me. This seems smaller and kind of out of proportion again, just in a completely different way and reason. But at least the pylons are better, I'll give it that. They also added some extra armament for that film. So yeah. It definitely screams different for the sake of difference. And I'm going to talk about the JJ verse in a different video, so this one's not too long. But there's a few things that really just... that they were so simple that they could have done better. For one, it's always bugged me, and I don't think this is an unfair nitpick, how Kirk went from being a cadet to a captain. And not even a, like, valedictorian, top of their class cadet. Pretty much a delinquent cadet who was overaged anyway. You know, he went from that to captaining the most advanced ship in the fleet in one film, even overshooting Spock, who was a commander. Why was Spock a commander? He should at least been a lieutenant. It's just the ranks in it do not make sense. And the dates also do not make sense. It took place in 2258, but we know in the prime timeline that that would have been still during Pike's era, and that the Enterprise was not at all a new ship. So to say, okay, now it's brand new in 2258 is just tinkering with the timeline for no purpose. And another thing, the films kind of had this whole rushed attitude. This really comes into show with Into Darkness. They just could not wait to get Khan in. And then, frankly, they just couldn't wait to refit the Enterprise, had to try to jump forward, and then destroy it. And they couldn't wait to kill Kirk instead of Spock. They just did all those tropes, all those trademarks of the original series crew cast, but they crammed them into 3 films as opposed to 3 seasons, 3 or 4 films, and, you know, more importantly, 2 decades. The audience had no emotional connection, and so it didn't really matter when things happened. And of course, there's always the complaint that the characters were kind of caricatures of themselves from that film, which is legitimate. Certainly, it's true with Scotty. And of course, you have the typical J.J. Abrams approach more towards special effects and all that as opposed to actual plot and story. It's a shame because Beyond was actually approaching quite good, but by that point it was frankly too late. That, in my opinion, would have been the film to bring Khan in on, maybe. And also, just to arbitrarily destroy Vulcan like they did in the first film, I don't know, it kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. I get it, they were going for something and they sort of succeeded, but the long and the short, Star Trek has always been best as when it's a series, not, strictly speaking, movies. The only reason the original movies worked is because people already knew this cast and cared about them. They had time to do character building, which there's just not time for in a film, not like there is in a series. Like I said, I'll address it more, but yeah, the re-envisioned Enterprise. Basically, I guess it comes down to the nacelles. They're just odd to me. Kind of a very odd aesthetic. Oh, and the size. To be fair, the people, when they modeled these ships, had them correct. Kind of going with the original size of around 300 meters, crew of 400-ish. But then JJ got a hold of it and wanted to scale these up to 750 meters. Eh, boy. Yeah. I don't know, folks. But that's modern cinema. This has been done to death. But, You know, it's just Star Trek is an action versus science. But what can I say? I mean, even the Next Generation movies were very much going in that direction. I just think Star Trek is better as a series, honestly. The films have always been... Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of decent ones, but out of the 13 or so they've made to date, there's only 3, maybe 4 really good ones, and several entertaining ones. I'll even put 2009 in there. It was entertaining and had its moments, and the music was great, but... I don't know. I would have liked to have seen that cast with a different director and different writers in an actual series. That would have been enjoyable. Reboot the TOS as a new series. That'd be fun. But probably not going to happen. Well, appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, I'll probably do another video, thoughts, maybe even a real review if there's interest. But just felt like having these out and sharing my impressions of them. Any questions or comments, post them below as always. If you like, please click the button, share, subscribe, and check out some of the other videos. This is Misha, and I will catch you next time.